He never told his girlfriend what he heard on the third floor. Not that night, not the next morning, not for 3 days after. He was afraid that if he said it out loud, she would tell him she heard it too. He was right to be afraid. Welcome to TheSpiritvox.
TheSpiritvox. It's alive.
Marcus was 24 years old, not someone who believed in ghosts, not someone who scared easily. He and his girlfriend Delia had spent 2 years photographing abandoned buildings across Ohio, empty factories, shuttered schools, forgotten hospitals. They had crawled through broken windows in the dark more times than either of them could count. Nothing had ever made Marcus go quiet the way that October did. The building had been a state psychiatric facility, 4 floors, dozens of rooms, abandoned since 1991. The county had never torn it down and never explained why. It sat at the end of a gravel road behind a rusted fence, slowly becoming part of the landscape, windows gone, brick crumbling, the roof on the east wing partially collapsed. They went in on a Saturday afternoon. Gray sky, no wind, the kind of quiet that a building holds when it has been empty for a very long time. Inside, the air had a smell that Marcus still has not found words for. Not just mildew, not just age. Something underneath all of that. Something that felt almost like a presence before anything had happened to justify calling it that. They moved through the ground floor, then up. Patient rooms with iron bed frames still bolted to the walls. Filing cabinets left open, paper scattered across the floor. On one wall, someone had written a name in black marker, large and uneven. They did not stop to read it. They kept moving. They were on the second floor, maybe 20 minutes in, when Delia grabbed Marcus's arm and pointed at the ceiling. It's piano music, coming from somewhere above them. Not faint, not ambiguous. A slow, deliberate melody played by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Marcus describes it as a lullaby, not one he recognized, but something that felt old, felt known, felt like a memory that belonged to someone else. The building had no electricity. There was no piano on the floors they had already walked. The facility had been sealed for 30 years. None of that stopped the music. They moved toward the stairwell at the end of the hall. The melody continued the entire time, not changing, not faltering, and then Marcus put his foot on the first step and it stopped, completely, immediately, the way a person stops when they hear a door open. They went up anyway. Marcus says he still does not fully understand why. Thinks it was the same instinct that makes you look into a dark room, even when every part of you says you should not. The third floor was narrower, darker. The hallway bent slightly to the left in a way that made it impossible to see more than 30 feet ahead. Marcus was walking slightly ahead of Delia when he felt it. A cold, not the cold of the building, something more direct than that. Something with intention behind it, right beside his left ear. And then a voice, a woman's voice, barely above silence, saying a single word. A name. He did not stop walking. He did not say anything to Delia. He filed it away in the part of his mind reserved for things he intended to never think about again, and he kept moving. 20 minutes later, they had split up. Delia was in the east wing, 100 feet away, photographing a common room. Marcus was at the opposite end of the hall, and then he heard her running. She grabbed his arm with both hands, and her voice was very controlled in the way that voices get when a person is working extremely hard not to panic. She said, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Did you hear a voice say a name while we were up here? Marcus looked at her for a moment. Then he asked her what name she had heard. She told him it was the same name, the same voice, the same single word, spoken in a tone that did not sound like a warning or a threat. It sounded like someone calling for someone they had lost, calling the way you call when you are no longer sure anyone is going to answer, but you cannot stop. They left the building. They did not speak much on the drive home. That night, Marcus searched the county archive database. He searched for 3 hours. He almost gave up. Then he found the record, a patient intake form scanned from the original. 1963. A woman admitted involuntarily at age 34. Former occupation, pianist. 1 year before her admission, she had lost a child, a daughter, 4 years old, dead from fever. The woman had never recovered. She had stopped speaking. She had stopped eating properly. She had, according to the record, been heard walking the hallways at night, calling her daughter's name over and over, until the staff began locking her door at sundown. She had died in that facility in 1969. Cardiac arrest, age 40. Marcus sat with that for a while. Then he looked at the second document he had pulled up, the death record, and noticed the date, October 14th. He had to look at his own phone to confirm the date of the day he and Delia had walked into that building. October 14th. He called Delia immediately. She answered on the first ring, which told him she had not been asleep either. He told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I went back and looked at my photos from the 3rd floor, from the bend in the hallway. I thought I should tell you." In the background of one photograph, slightly out of focus, standing at the far end of the hall was a figure, a woman facing away, standing completely still. In the 30 years that building had been abandoned, not one official photo of the interior had ever shown anything like that. Marcus and Delia have not been back. But Marcus told us one more thing before ending his submission. Something he had not mentioned before, something he had held back because he was not sure how to say it. He said, "I never told Delia the name I heard, not the night it happened, not on the drive home. I waited until I found the records and I could prove it was real. I called her. I told her the name, and she went quiet in a way that I had never heard from her before. She said, 'That is not the name I heard.' Marcus heard Eleanor. Delia heard a different name entirely. There were 2 of them. The room had been locked for 40 years. When they finally opened it, the floor was clean, the walls were clean, there was no dust anywhere, and on the inside of the window, a window sealed shut since the night someone died behind it, there was a handprint in the glass. It was too small to belong to an adult. In the Philippines, there is a kind of house called the Bahay na Bato. Stone foundation, hardwood frame, built to outlast everything. Storms, decades, the people who fill it. The Reyes family house on the edge of Iloilo City had stood for nearly 60 years. 3 generations had grown up inside it, grown old inside it, passed away inside it. And on the 2nd floor, at the end of a short hallway, there was a door that no one in the family had opened since 1983. No one spoke about why. In a Filipino household, you learn early that certain silences are not empty. They are full. They are full of something the adults decided long ago that you are not ready to Carrie. Gabriel was 28 when his grandmother died and the family decided to sell the property. He flew in from Cebu to help clear the house. He was given a list of every room to clean. The locked door at the end of the second floor hallway was not on the list. No one mentioned it. No one told him to leave it alone either. It simply existed in that house the way certain things exist in old families, present, unacknowledged, understood by everyone, and explained to no one. He arrived on a Tuesday, June. Eastern Philippines heat, 34 degrees and not dropping at night. He worked through the house for 2 full days without incident. Furniture moved. Boxes filled. The ordinary labor of ending a home. On the second night, he woke at 2 in the morning for no reason he could identify. The room was dark. The heat had not broken. He lay still, listening to the silence, and then the silence changed. Crying, coming from the locked room at the end of the hallway. Not faint, not the kind of sound you second guess. A woman's voice, low and continuous. The kind of crying that does not peak and does not stop. The crying of someone who has long since moved past grief and arrived somewhere beyond it. Somewhere without an exit. Gabriel got up. He walked down the hall and placed his palm flat against the door. The wood was cold. Not cool, not slightly cooler than the air. Cold the way metal gets in a freezer. Cold in a way that should not have been physically possible in a sealed room in 34-degree heat, in a house with no air conditioning. He stood there. The crying continued through the door and through his hand, and he could not move. He does not know how long he stood there. He knows that at some point he let go, walked back to his room, and did not sleep again before sunrise. In the morning, the stain was there. A dark red shape on the hardwood floor directly in front of the locked door, roughly the size of an open hand, spreading outward from the base. Gabriel assumed it was something that had leaked. He cleaned it. Bleach, cloth, scrubbed until the wood was pale. He moved on, did not think about it again until evening, when he walked past that hallway and stopped. The stain had returned, same shape, same position, dried at the edges as though it had been there for hours. He went to the neighbor, Lola. Coring had lived next door for her entire life. She was in her late 70s, and she had the manner of someone who has spent decades knowing. Something that everyone around her had agreed not to say. Gabriel knocked on her door and asked one question: who died in the back room? She told him. 40 years ago, a young woman named Remedios, Gabriel's great-aunt, 23 years old, 8 months pregnant, had gone into labor during the height of the rainy season. The road was flooded. No car could pass. The family tried to manage. They sent someone running for help, but the birth went wrong in a way that could not be corrected without a hospital, and by the time anyone reached one, Remedios and the child were both gone. The family locked the room the next morning. They packed away everything that had been hers, and then slowly, they stopped saying her name. They stopped saying the child's name, a name that had already been chosen, already spoken aloud in that house in the weeks before she died, already given to someone who never took their first breath. Lola Coring said, "She is still in there." She finished her thought, then stopped. She looked at Gabriel for a moment, and then she added something that she had apparently never said to anyone in the family before. She said, "I have heard the crying from my side of the wall. For 40 years I have heard it, not every night, but enough. And in the last month since your grandmother became ill, and it became clear the house would be sold, it has been every night, every single night, as if she knows." as if she's afraid of being left behind again. Gabriel brought family members to the house one at a time over the following week. He told none of them anything. He asked for help with the clearing and said nothing more. 3 of them, on separate days, in the hours between 2 and 4 in the morning, came to find him. Each said the same thing. A woman in the hallway, moving toward the back room, moving slowly, not looking at them, not stopping. None of them ever saw her come out. When the property sold and the new owners broke the lock and opened that room for the first time in 40 years, they found nothing. No furniture, no dust on the floor, no decay of any kind. Clean walls, clean windows, clean in the way that a room is clean when someone has been maintaining it, not the stillness of abandonment, but the order of ongoing care. One window, sealed shut, locked from inside in 1983 and never touched. On the glass, on the interior surface of that sealed window, a handprint, small, the size of an infant's palm, pressed clearly into the dust on the glass, not on the outside, on the inside. The contractor who opened the room said the lock was intact. The window had not been opened. There was no other entrance. He told the new owners that he had been doing renovation work for 20 years, and he did not have an explanation, and he was not going to look for one. He finished the job. He did not go back into that room alone. Gabriel told us one more thing at the end of his submission. He said that the night before the sale closed, his last night in that house, he stood outside the locked door for a long time. He did not open it. He did not try the handle. He just stood there. And for the first time since he had arrived, the crying had stopped. The hallway was completely silent. Gabriel said it was the most frightening thing that happened to him the entire week. Not the crying, not the stain, not the figure in the hallway. The silence, because silence meant she had heard something. Silence meant she was waiting. He left the next morning without looking back. This has been TheSpiritvox. We will see you in the dark. Four people had already reported it before Sifo did. He did not know that when it happened. He found out afterward at a petrol garage from a man who had been keeping count. The fifth witness is always the one who stops asking for an explanation. CFO was 31 years old and had been driving the N2 highway home from his night shift for almost 2 years. He knew that road the way you know a route you have driven hundreds of times, not consciously, not attentively, but in the body, in the hands. The turns coming before you register them. The landmarks passing in the peripheral vision without your eyes ever moving to find them. He was not a nervous driver. He was not an imaginative one. He listened to music, kept his window slightly cracked, and made the 40-minute drive home in a comfortable and familiar silence. The N2 between East London and the surrounding townships is a road that changes character at night. The businesses close. The foot traffic disappears. For long stretches, there is nothing alongside it but darkness and whatever is moving through it. Trucks, taxis, the occasional private car. The road does not feel threatening exactly. It feels exposed. It feels like a place where things that happen are not witnessed by anyone. Sifo had been driving for about 15 minutes when he noticed headlights in his rearview mirror. A minibus taxi, gaining fast. White, boxy, the kind that moves people across the Eastern Cape every hour of every day, familiar to the point of invisibility. Sifo moved slightly left to give it room. Standard road behavior. He did not think about it. The taxi came alongside him. Sifo looked across, and then he did not look away for what he estimates was 4 seconds, because his mind refused to process what it was seeing fast enough to end the moment. The driver's seat was empty. The steering wheel was moving. Sifo watched it make a small correction as the road curved, the smooth, automatic adjustment of a driver responding to the road. But there were no hands on it, no figure behind it. The seat was empty in the way a seat is empty when no one has sat in it all day. The taxi accelerated past him. It reached a long left-hand bend in the road, a bend Sifo knew, a bend he had taken 100 times, and it went around it, and it was gone. Sifo pulled over. He sat on the shoulder with his hazard lights going for 10 minutes. He did not call anyone. He did not know what words he would use. He sat there until his hands stopped moving, and then he drove home very quickly and went to bed without eating and lay awake until daylight. The next morning, on his way back to the warehouse, he stopped at the petrol garage at the edge of that stretch of road. There was an attendant there he recognized, a man in his 50s who had worked that forecourt for as Sifo could remember. Sifo told him what he had seen. He was direct about it. He did not soften the details. The attendant listened. He did not look surprised. He did not look skeptical. He looked like a man who had been waiting for this conversation. He told Sifo, 6 months ago, a minibus taxi lost control on that left-hand bend. It rolled twice. The driver died at the scene immediately before anyone could reach him. All the passengers walked away, not one injury among them. The police called it luck. The people who lived in the area called it something else, something older than luck. And then, 4 times after that night, always between 2 and 4 in the morning, always on the same stretch of road, other drivers had stopped at that garage. Different people, different nights, the same story each time. White taxi, high speed, empty seat, gone at the bend. Sifo asked the attendant the question that had been forming since the night before. Why was the seat empty? Every other version of this kind of story, the ghost is there, the figure is there sitting behind the wheel. Why was there nothing? The attendant thought about this for a while. Then he said, maybe because he never made it to the seat. The crash happened before he could recover. He was still in motion when he died. He has been in motion since. Sifo drove to work. He did his shift. He drove the N2 home. He kept his eyes forward at the bend. He did this for 6 weeks without incident. He started to believe that it was finished, that whatever it was, it had moved on. He started to feel normal again on that road. Started to feel like himself. Then one night, 3 weeks ago, as of the date he submitted this to us, his phone buzzed on the passenger seat. A message from a number he did not recognize. No name, just a single photograph. A screenshot of a news article, local paper, Eastern Cape edition, published that morning. Another crash on the N2, same stretch of road, same bend. A private car this time, not a taxi. The driver, a woman in her 40s, had survived with minor injuries. She told the reporter that she had swerved to avoid another vehicle, a white minibus taxi that appeared suddenly alongside her, traveling at extreme speed. She told the reporter the taxi had no driver. Sifo tried to call back the number that had sent him the photo. It rang 3 times. Then a recorded message told him the number was not in service, had never been in service, did not exist. He has not found out who sent it. He has not tried again. Some questions, he told us, you stop wanting answered. He still drives the N2. He still goes home the same way. He has no other route. But he told us one thing that he has not told anyone else. He said, some nights when I pass that bend and I check my rearview mirror, I see my own face looking back at me. And sometimes, just for a second, I am not sure it is mine. This has been TheSpiritvox. We will see you in the dark again. Till then, take care and stay tuned with us.